So it's finally here, the next wipe with patch 13.5 being installed this morning, and it's going to go live at about 2 o'clock my time or 9 AM Eastern time. Hopefully, if nothing else goes wrong and they don't have to delay it, which sometimes they do, I'd say it's a 50-50 chance. But we have the patch notes for patch 13.5 right here, and there will be a wipe as we already know this. So let's just go through this one by one. Streets of Tarkov expansion, Kaban. The new boss. Added new boss Kaban. He once had a small legal business in Tarkov, but was not afraid to use criminal methods of money acquisition. After the general evacuation, he remained in the city, and his gang has grown. His size allows him to fire various heavy machine guns without resting the gun, but at the same time, Kaban cannot afford to be mobile, and therefore either stays in position or moves slowly from point to point during combat. So, yeah, maybe that's not too bad. He has a large number of well-armed guards, some of whom are former military men who have organised a strong defence for him. The boss dwells in the area of the car repair shop on the streets of Tarkov. The area is heavily defended, as we knew that would happen when they introduced him. The entrances are fortified with stationary machine guns and AGS. The paths are mined, which kind of sucks, and snipers are on the roof of the car service centre. Fine. He uses a custom rig to store machine gun boxes, wears body armour under his clothes, and has unquestionable authority amongst his guards. Scavs nearby will also help the boss with defense and will engage in combat for Kaban. So this is going to be kind of interesting. We're going to have to see how it plays out. The middle section of the map is now going to be kind of a no-go zone, but because they're expanding elsewhere, like we saw in the previous video that I did, we're going to have to basically skirt the edges if we don't want to get instantly shot and killed by his crew. I'm interested to see whether he's 100% spawn chance, because that would be quite unusual for a boss, and it means that maybe we'd be able to go in there and Kaban wouldn't be there, but maybe all his guards will be. I'm not sure. I still think that there's going to be mines and everything, so it's going to be hard to get in there, even if Kaban himself, the big man, is not actually there. So kit presets, this has been anticipated for a long time. Added the ability to save a gear preset and quickly equip it. This is going to save a lot of time in the stash if you set your system up correctly and in a way that makes it easy for you to do it for different maps, that kind of thing. But we'll see that that will actually be possible. The player can name the preset, select the one that they want to equip, see the contents, the weight, and compare it to other equipment sets. I don't know what stats are going to show us, but that's quite cool. The screen of selected equipment is divided into 2 tabs. Equipment itself, which displays all available gear slots, so I think that's just going to be your armor, your helmet, your weapon, your rig and all that kind of stuff, and then pouches, which displays the contents of rigs, pockets, backpack, and secure containers. So the thing that I'm almost most excited about this is that you're going to be able to set up different like presets. You could even just do a base one without any equipment, just so your secure container is organized for each map, you know. So you go to reserve, you don't forget to bring Red Rebel and a paracord, or you go to woods, you don't forget to bring some money, that kind of thing, which is going to be really useful. The selected equipment set is assembled from matching items in player stash. Fine. If the player does not have enough items, they could be purchased from the market. So that's going to be like the weapons builder is right now. After character creation, 15 basic sets of equipment are available to the player. Maybe are these like presets? I don't know. The player can then create up to 50 custom gear sets. I think so. It's probably not going to be blank. There's probably going to be 15 that are there, like, you know, SKS Hero and AK-74U Warrior or stuff like that, I imagine. So we'll have to see, but I reckon most people are just going to replace them with their own custom sets so they can, you know, go to each map with a different loadout in the secure container. But yeah, being able to put all of your meds and everything the way that you want it into your rigs already and your secure container already organized the way you want it, it's going to save so much time. Honestly, it's going to be so good. So randomized container spawns. This is another highly anticipated change. Containers will now spawn at random points. The number of spawn points for containers has been increased on all locations. So what they've done then is increase the amount of places that these various things can spawn, and they're going to be randomly distributed across these spawn points. I still don't know whether this is going to apply to caches. It sounds like it because it says here large wooden crates, some Terror Group crates, large cache registers, and filing cabinets will now always spawn at their respective locations. So the way that it is now, basically, that's sort of differentiating it from these other things. So like big crates aren't going to move, so they're always going to be in the same place, but everything else, it sounds like, is going to be scattered around the map. And maybe this will include stashes, I don't know. Next is Sidearm quickswap. Now, I'm actually quite looking forward to this, to be honest, because I hope that we'll change the meta of people bringing in pistol, because no one does right now. So when the holstered weapon hotkey is pressed twice, key 1 by default, the character will swap weapons quicker. This action consumes arm stamina, and if it's insufficient, the weapon equipped in the hands will tremble. I don't know whether this is it trembles because your stamina is 0, because that happens anyway, or whether it's a special tremble that's even more. I'm actually not sure. It looked like it was just because it was stamina of 0 in the teaser, but I'm not 100%. On training, weapon mastering, and corresponding with the weapon type skill, the amount of arm stamina consumed on quick swapping will decrease, and the speed of action will increase. This is actually kind of interesting, because if you get your pistols skill up, the speed of increasing of the action might mean that you could get this thing out in record time. I wonder what the limit is. Say if you get to a really high level of pistol skill, how quickly you could get this out. The other thing that I would mention is that when the holstered weapon hotkey pressed twice, key 1 by default, this action, I would highly advise everybody to move this away to a different key. Say make it like Control and 1, for example, to do either the regular one or the quick one, depending on which one you think you're going to prefer. Because if you have get out your sidearm on 1, and then you have get out your sidearm quickly on double one. When you try to swap to your pistol normally, there's going to be an input delay there because the game is waiting for the second key to decide which type of swap it's going to do. And there's an input delay slider in the inventory menu somewhere, and it's got 0.3 up to 1 second. So there's going to be a minimum delay of 300 milliseconds before you get your gun out if you don't swap this key over. This is the same behavior that we see with other things, and I think it's just useful to change it over to something else. Improvements to peaceful behavior of bots. Added routes for looting containers by scavs on Streets of Tarkov. Interesting. The barrel of bots' weapons oscillates up and down slightly during peaceful walking. Peaceful routes of bots now have slight deviations from straight points, mimicking the player's movement. So it might be even harder to actually figure out who's who. I've killed some people recently who look like bots and vice versa, so it's getting harder. The AI is getting slightly better over time. During combat or in case of danger, bots return to the ready mode. Reduce the reloading speed of low difficulty bots. Bots can no longer rotate instantly. Now to rotate to a significant angle whilst prone, the bot assumes a sitting position and continues firing. This is kind of good because sometimes they just rotate on the floor and it just looks really silly. Bots now search corpses and take weapons, rigs, backpacks, whatever contents they like from them. If a bot has a backpack and a rig, it will drop the backpack and bring it next to the corpse. So it'll drop their own one to pick up the one that's better. Contents taken by bots are not refundable by insurance. This is interesting, and the reason why this is because if the player or a bot has a piece of equipment physically on their person, it's not like on the map anymore, and so it doesn't count for insurance. This is the same for the player right now. If you keep all of your stuff on you and you go MIA, none of that stuff comes back. You have to drop it on the floor. So this actually just extends that to bots as well. It's just the way that the behavior works for insurance. Bots can share an item with a player playing as a scav by calling out to them, which is interesting. Improved visibility of bots at dusk. Great, eh? Now it corresponds more correctly to the change of light level. Flashlight still gives better visibility at this time of day. I hope it's not just a pure improvement. I hope it's when it's going dark, the visibility slowly goes down, because right now it's either night or not. And you most see this with the rogues. If it's like dusk, most of the time they can either see as if it's day or see as if it's night, and it's really binary. So I hope that this is just improved visibility behavior. I would hope that this would say, rather than just improved visibility like they can see better, I hope it just more accurately matches, which is kind of what they say. So maybe this is a translation issue, but oh god, please. And corrected spawn time and playing as a scav on all maps. Fine. So bot groups, this one's actually kind of cool. The AI scav groups system has been improved. Now groups of scavs that will operate as a team will spawn at a certain chance. So they're going to kind of come after you. This is sort of the way that raiders do. They're going to be better organized in combat and essentially small gangs. Fun, I like it, and that fits with the lore too. Commands to bots. This is something I wasn't expecting. When playing as a scav, new commands to bots are available to the player. A chance that a bot will execute a command depends on its reputation with the fence. So our PMC's reputation, I guess, with fence. And all commands have a cooldown. So you can use help when this command is used. All bots within a certain chance and a significant radius will go to help the player. Pretty fun. Spread out. This is kind of self-explanatory. Take cover, again, self-explanatory. This is like the bot next to the player. Quiet, bots within a reasonable radius stop talking, start listening. Also kind of interesting. Stop and also follow. So yeah, you can use the phrase follow me, and you can also give the gesture. That actually works at the moment already, but they've expanded this to the phrase, which is kind of cool. Quality of life. We saw a lot of this stuff already. So the user interface of the trade, quests, and Ragman service screens has been redesigned. So now it's trader centric. So traders are all in tabs at the top. Player can now quickly equip or replace an item with any of the available items in the stash via a drop down menu by clicking on the character slot. That's actually really cool. So no longer do you need to search through all of your bags for armor or magazines or whatever. You're going to be able to actually click the slot and see everything that's available to go in there. Actually, maybe not magazines. Maybe the rig slots won't be available. I think this is maybe just on your PMC. So your helmet, your armor, maybe your gun, other things like your headset and glasses, that kind of stuff. I think that's a really, really good quality of life. FPS meter no longer overlaps the raid timer. Okay. Double clicking on consumables automatically uses the item. And we saw that already in the functionality. You could turn on tactical devices using H. You can switch the modes by pressing Control H. Cool. The list of available mods for the optical helmets and rails, as well as the 6B47 helmet, which is the Ratnik, has been expanded, so you can add more stuff to those helmets. When holding 4 to 0 hotkeys when using the first aid kit and other medical supplies, a drop down of the body parts to treat will now appear. When using the first aid kit, the list shows all of the character's wounds. When using other medical items, only the body parts that will be healed with the item is shown. To activate it, you need to set the hotkey mode to release. I'm interested to see what this does and how this interacts with the way that I have my hotkey set up, which is heavy bleed item on press 5 and healing item on release 5, because that might allow me to automatically heal any heavy bleed, but then because it's on release, if I hold it down, it may well then allow me to still use the scroll for healing the thorax, for example, using the health kit afterwards. We're going to have to see. Otherwise, we're going to have to maybe do 2 separate keys. One's the emergency button and one's the fine control, I'm going to pick an actual limb. And new images to the loading screens. Okay. Next, the gun stand. I'm actually surprised at how big this is going to be. A new module weapon stand has been added to the hideout. The stand has 3 levels of pumping. I guess they mean 3 levels. Each level can only hold a certain number of weapons. Level 1, 108 cells. That's big. Level 2, 132 cells. Level 3, 182 cells. That's a big amount of space. That really is. The caveat, only weapons with all critical components can be placed on the shelves of the weapons stand. So it's going to have a grip. It needs to be basically 2 slots, except for certain guns, like an MP5 could be up there. A magazine isn't a critical component. It means basically the weapon can't go up there red. So you can't just stick up tons of meta weapons rack by rack by rack by rack with no pistol grip, no stock, no suppressors, you know, anything like that to really expand the space. It has to be real guns that could be put into the player's hands need to be on there. But I mean, this is huge. This is actually massive. This is like giving the player a bunch of weapons cases. So I think this is a very, very cool quality of life thing. Quick sale of scav gear. We knew about this. It also sells stuff that he doesn't normally buy, like euros, I guess. Defense, you can't normally sell defense, so that's kind of cool. Improved the display of the crafting process, added an animation and a color indication. The finished craft is now the first in the list. Clicking on the craft allows you to go to the module that is ready for the pickup of the item. Just makes it slightly quicker. Graphics and performance. The visual effect of and aesthetic has been changed. So I think this is saturation. We're going to have to see exactly what this looks like in game, but this is basically the removal of the sharpness effect from painkillers. It's kind of annoying for regular players. For streamers and content creators, it absolutely destroys the visual quality when you are painkillered up, and being painkillered in Tarkov is extremely important. So lots of people have called for this for a long time. Hopefully, I think it's an increase in saturation, so you can still tell when the painkiller runs out. New technology of fog rendering has been implemented on Streets of Tarkov. This makes me worry slightly, but hopefully they haven't made it worse. It's just different and better. I really hope. Added a new culling system to Lighthouse, so this should actually help a little bit with frames, or at least maybe with VRAM, and improve the culling system on Streets of Tarkov, increase the accuracy and performance of the system. Again, this should help with VRAM because this means that you're not loading in as many textures all at once. You're not having to render everything all at the same time. So this is good, and just general optimization of resource consumption by the sound system. Fine, good. All performance updates are welcome. So next we have the new weapons. There's nothing in here that we didn't see before. SVT-40 and AVT-40 rifles, which are going to be beastly if they're accessible early. The AK-12 assault rifle, the PKM, and the PKP light machine guns, one of which is Kaban's. I think it's going to be on him only. You're not going to be able to buy it or anything. It's going to be the big box that fires 7.62 by 54R, which is going to be crazy. Vizzy's sawn-off shotgun, and the PM and PV pistol has been updated. We saw all of this in the trailer, so there's nothing new here. New ammo. Now this is interesting. A new 300 Blackout CBJ, 1270 Piranha. So this is a 12 gauge slug, I imagine. 46 by 30 mil JSP SX. So this is for the MP7. And then we've got for 7.62 by 39, we've got FMJ, SP, and PP. And then for 7.62 by 54R, we've got FMJ, HPBT, and SPBT, as well as 9x19 FMJ M882. It's really a crapshoot as to where these are going to come out, whether this is going to be any good or not. PP could end up being better than PS right now. If you think about the way, I'm not an expert in these things IRL, but if you think of the way that it is right now in 5.45, PP is kind of the meta-y one before you get onto BP, and before that you have PS. So right now in 7.62 we have PS and we have BP with nothing in between. So I'm hoping that PP sits somewhere in between. People have been calling for something to be in that gap between PS and BP for a long time. Whether the caliber actually needs it because it's like very, very meta is another question. But we'll have to see where these fit in, especially the ones like this one, JSP SX, and the 300 Blackout. Because 300 Blackout CBJ, if this sits between M62 and AP, that will also be very, very welcome, and will actually make the MCX much more like the 5.56 platform with M855A1 and 995, because M62 is just not that good. It's like M856A1, which is very mid-game. It makes the MCX extremely hard to run at the end of the wipe without constantly crafting AP. Balancing changes. So various balancing changes to ammo, trade changes, and various balancing changes to crafts. We're going to have to see what these look like. We can't really speculate right now, but I'm sure as soon as these get updated, I'll do a video about what's changed and if anything's impactful on the ammo. Adjusted resizing for the following mods. So there's a load of different things. JP Enterprises, like scope mounts, Nightforce mag mount, Barris, the Stanag magwell, resizing for the following mods. I think this is just making the guns bigger when you add them on, I think, and making it so that it is actually consistent across all of these things, but I'm not 100% certain. I think that's what that is relating to. And we've got balancing changes to quests. It doesn't actually say what, but they've changed Trophy, Sellout, Woodskeeper. Maybe this is about the order, because these are the ones to kill Sturman, the bosses. Hunting Trip, Tourist, Psycho Sniper, which is the one we have to get to level 9 Sniper, Shooter Born in Heaven, Tarkov Shooter 8. Let's see, maybe these will come earlier in the quest line. Maybe some of them will be adjusted. I can't speculate right now. It's impossible to know. The shooting range. This has been reduced in requirements for building a level 1 module. There were loads of parts you needed for the level 1 before, and it's quite an important thing, especially for new players to go and test without having to go into offline every time. So now you need lighting at level 1, 20,000 rubles, 1 nut, 1 bolts, 1 metal spare part. This is actually much easier than it was before, and I think it's well worth it if you want to experiment with a few guns. The defective wall, this is the precursor to the gym that they added last wipe that was kind of fun and everyone was speculating about as it was going on, because it was almost like a community thing because it's sort of time gated in that way. New conditions for the module construction, you now need to have the medical center at level 1 and water collector at level 1. So this is actually pushing it out a little bit further ahead. You can't do this until you have these two things, which do take a little bit of time to get. And then for the gym as well, you now have to also have lighting level 2 and vents level 2. I think last time maybe there weren't any requirements whatsoever, you just needed to get the parts. But yeah, now you need to do some other stuff in the hideout to make it work. And then corrections, this is basically just bug fixes. I don't think there's anything really interesting here. There's visual artifacts in the hideout on the streets of Tarkov, incorrect positions of Zavachi, soft locks of players and players' hands models not looking right and all that kind of stuff. So it's not really worth going through those kind of things. Lack of container sound looting in third person, etc, etc. So they're fixing a few bugs here. The stash upgrade obtained as a record for the Terror Group Trail and the ranking season will occur during August. So if you did manage to finish Terror Group Trail, I do appreciate that the guys at BSG wiped it really early and some people are still finishing it. So I really feel for you if you didn't manage to complete it. But if you did manage to do it, then you'll have these 2 extra rows as a reward in this upcoming wipe. So I'm sure there's much more to come. There's always a load of hidden stuff that they don't tell us actually in the patch notes. So I'll be going through that maybe tomorrow or the day after, depending on how much I manage to collect. I'm going to go live later today. I'll be definitely there for 2 PM UK time. And we're going to see what happens. Maybe it'll get delayed, but I'll be sitting around anyway in stream. So if you want to come and ask me anything or just want to be there beforehand, you're at a loose end, then come over and say hi and I'll be sat there and we'll be ready and we're going to be playing all the rest of the day basically. So until then, I'll see you later and have fun in your raids.